Hello, everyone, and welcome to an AgosIT podcast with me, John Martin.
And me, Jake Hills.
We hope you're all doing extremely well. Today marks the start of a new mini-series we're going to be uploading, covering some of the most relevant topics surrounding IT and the COVID-19 pandemic, and how it can be spotted and dealt with from an IT perspective. So something you may have seen online and heavily reported in the news is phishing. We thought it'd be a good idea to cover some information on how you can tell the difference and what can be done to help prevent it. Jake, just for the listeners, are you able to give a quick definition on phishing for me, sort of what it is and what it involves?
Yeah, of course. So phishing, as it sounds, is a play on the activity of fishing. What these people are doing is they're casting that rod out there to try and get a bite, and the way they're doing that is basically any way you can receive communication. That's how they'll do it. They'll do it via emails, text messages, phone calls, even. And the idea is they're going to impersonate whether it's someone like your bank or potentially even a doctor. They will stoop to those levels to get personal information out of you or even financial gain out of it. So whether it's your bank details or an actual bank transfer from you.
Okay, so I guess this is more prevalent now because of COVID-19. I mean, personally, I've definitely seen or received a lot more texts and phishing attempts myself. And I suppose the reason for this is they're trying to prey on the kind nature of people. They know people want to help the situation, for example, like you said, donating to charitable causes as such.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. What these thieves will do is that they are opportunists, so they will seize any chance they can to capitalize on things that are in the news or that take advantage of that human nature. And COVID is just a perfect hotbed for it. Human nature is we want to help, we want to do our bit, we want to contribute to that charity or to contribute to the NHS. An example I've seen myself is I got a text message to my phone pretending to be a charitable organisation to support the NHS. Basically, and the link was just, fill in your details and we'll take £10 out your bank.
Wow,
Obviously, it
okay.
would be a bit
Yeah.
worse than that, but that's just a personal one. If we're talking on a business level, a previous place I worked at was that someone received an email, it looked perfectly legitimate, looked like it was from a client saying, "Oh, you need to pay us £20,000 for this service." Now, obviously, the thief behind it knew exactly the sort of person they were targeting, and they knew exactly what they were looking for, and that actually went through. So £20,000 was taken from the company account and given to this thief wherever they were in the world.
It's crazy, I think, just to think that after the click of a few buttons, that company lost money, potentially important data as well. Like we said, after going over all these ramifications of a phishing attack, how would you go about spotting such an attack and putting in the right preventative measures, using them as an example, I guess, of how they could have prevented that in the first place?
Yeah, of course. So, first of all, that sounds like the only ramification. But if we just circle back a second, there's much more to it than that. It's not just that £20,000. If we stick with that example that's gone out the bank, that could be way worse. They could have access to the network off of that email. For all you know, you've clicked on that link, it's installed something on the PC that you're on. That's then gone onto servers, network equipment elsewhere, and it is just mining information from all over the place. I mean, even wider than that, there's a domino effect. If that happens to an IT company, or in particular an IT security company, and that gets out, that company's finished.
Yeah,
It's a reputation thing. You're not going to want to be supported by a company who have just been hacked. And further than that, there's even further backlash in financial terms. You've lost £20,000. You've then got to look into that £20,000, find out where that's gone. Can you get that back? How did they get into my system? How can I secure my system? And like I said before, it's also data. It's not just financial data. We're in the healthcare industry. Patient data is number one. It's not all about the financials. That is even bigger than that. And a lot of the time, businesses shirk away from implementing the right security measures, even though that initial outlay is vastly cheaper than the potential consequences. As an example, a GDPR breach alone, that's £20 million or 4% of your annual turnover, whichever's greater. Yeah. As opposed to paying maybe as a random figure £3,000 a month for a security solution, which is going to hit the business harder. In terms of what do we do, how do we spot the attacks, that kind of thing, it's very important. Scammers will often imitate authoritative bodies, whether that's through email, text, phone calls, whatever it is. Always check the sources by visiting the official website. So if something's offering you a service that seems a little bit strange, they've come to you, check the official source. Go to like gov.co.uk and check what the information is. never click on a link in an email unless you are 1,000,000% sure you know exactly what you're clicking on, particularly if it's offering you something for free or saying we need to install this, or we want some information from you. Always check the source and don't click on that link. Go direct to the place. For example, PayPal is one I always get with a link saying, oh, just put in your PayPal details here, your account details are out of date. Maybe they are, but always go direct to PayPal. Do not go through the link on that email. In terms of how you can spot the actual email in itself, or maybe the text message in itself, what does it look like? Often they will have spelling or grammar or formatting mistakes, or just signs of a fraudulent email that they just don't look quite right. The logo might be slightly different, for example. Now, they are getting better. That's the bad news of it. Is they are looking more and more realistic, as you'll probably attest to. But there is still there. That is still something to look for. And another thing is, are you actually expecting that? Are you expecting that email, the text, or the phone call? Is it something you signed up for? Like I said, these are opportunists, and they'll take advantage of the global situation. Beware of anything that comes, and this goes beyond COVID. Just beware of anything that comes out of the blue.
Yeah, and definitely as well, don't be scared to ask anyone if it's if you've got a friend there or your IT support team. Don't be afraid just to send it over and get them to double check, because the last thing you want is to accidentally click on that link. And as we said before, the domino effect, it's so easy for them to steal data once it's been clicked.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. Ask someone. And furthermore, if it's a phone call, for example, don't be afraid to question the person. Don't be afraid to question them and saying, how did you get my number? You find out as much information about them as you can, and make sure as well that you report it in the right way. Like you said about your IT department, if it's business, if it's personal, report it to Action Fraud. We'll go on to cover a bit more of that a bit later on, but absolutely don't be afraid to speak to your IT department or IT representative in your company. Absolutely. They will always thank you for check in with them before doing anything, even if there's nothing wrong. They will rather you be safe than sorry.
Yeah, 100%. So if we clash with them together and take all those points on board, let's say, is there anything that we can put in place, or IT support, just to help prevent it? Is there anything they can implement, install, or put on board for the company that can help it on a business level, not just a single user level?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously all of those previous points should be hammered home with all the users, but in a wider sense for the business, things like email filtering, purchase a stringent and trusted platform to filter out these kind of emails before they even reach the end users. Now, no email filter is 100% accurate, but if you take away 95% of that spam and that rubbish and those kind of emails, you're vastly reducing your chances.
Yes.
Again, though, it still boils down to making sure users know. Make sure they know what they're looking for. So user education and training. Educate your users in what they need to look for, like we just went through above. Like we said, no email filter is going to catch everything, and no email filter is going to catch anything that's a phone call or a text message. Numbers get out there. It's a fact. I could go in the phone book right now and look up 1 million people's numbers. They get out there, so it's important they know what to look through for in that sense as well. And as well as that, make sure there is a clear and well-known process to report that within the business, whether that's the relevant IT person or IT security person or manager. However your business manages that process, A, make sure there is one, and B, make sure it's known. In terms of, well, hang on, we're still not going to stop everything. What happens when something goes through? Make sure there's endpoint protection on all of the devices, on mobiles, laptops, PCs, Mac servers, whatever it is. Make sure there is protection on that device. There is the chance that if they will just click on the link, and it will happen, but it could stop something from installing on the network, even once that link's clicked. Now, in a very, very, very worst case scenario, that link might be clicked and it might get installed. Make sure there's backups. There should be a regular set of backups, and they should be maintained, and they should be maintained regularly. And in a worst case scenario, the business should be able to fall back on those, and they should form part of a disaster recovery plan. Of course, no one wants to use that, and that's perfectly fine, but they should always be there. A backup and a plan should be in place.
Cool. Okay, so if I take you back to one of those points, I think where it all stems from, or the start of the process, would be user error. And you mentioned about educating and training users. Now, I've had this question loads of times before from previous companies on how you can educate your users. Is there any tools or something that you can put in place that can sort of put towards user training and make them more familiar with what a phishing attack is and how they can spot it?
Yeah, so just to sort of top level, good general IT awareness is something. So this could be mentioned maybe on their induction, when they're getting that 5-10 minutes or however long it is with their laptop. Mention to them about, spam and maybe the things to look for. It only takes 30 seconds and it could save literally millions, both for them and the company.
Yeah.
Maybe posters around the office, silly little things like that. Most effective, and what I've found from my previous roles, is regular training sessions or just drop-in sessions. Literally, you just book out a room for an hour. Tell everyone in the company, I'm in that room for an hour. You can ask me any questions. Now, these drop-in sessions, they don't always have to be about phishing or spam or anything like that. They could be about anything, and they're actually a good way in general to keep IT in contact with the rest of the business. But if we're focusing solely on phishing, run these sessions and get examples of phishing emails. It's not hard. They come through. Just take a screenshot, save it in a PowerPoint, and point them out and point out exactly what you're looking for. That sort of session might only take 5 minutes to run through an email, and that's 5 minutes out of the user's day, which could save the company millions. It doesn't take long at all to put something in place that really, really helps both individual users in their personal life as well, and the business.
Yeah, and I know for sure that we have used tools in the past that allow you to send out templates or fake phishing emails, which sounds quite funny actually. You're trying to get people to click on the link by doing this.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
yeah, we can send out links that then report that if the users have then clicked on the link, it reports back who's done it, so you can then approach them for further phishing training to make sure they're more aware and that first level of problems are being stopped, but stopped right at the first level, so you can approach them and make sure they're up to scratch and aware of what's coming through.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I think one we used at a previous company was called FishMe, and it did exactly that. It simulated a phishing attack, and obviously you could customize the email, and it gave you a list of templates. One of them was Amazon, for example. One we all use, Amazon.
Yeah.
And it would do exactly what you just said, and you could put behind the links, rather than a dodgy address that was just stealing their bank details, it could link them to the relevant SOP, standard operating procedure, for your company that educates them about that. Or it could be anything. It could be a PowerPoint that educates them about that. You have the customization. So there are tools out there. Some of them are free to a certain extent, and some of them paid for. But even if you use the free versions, they really are worth using and educating your users, because the time is vastly outweighed by the consequence of those examples that get through.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at it from a whole, this is everything we're mentioning is available from IT support, which I'll mention ourselves in there, that it's all available from AgosIT. So, for example, if you were to have a specialist for any medical visit, your IT partner should be viewed the same way, and we can be that specialist for you as such. So it's about finding the right partner. They can give you the right information, and it's essential that they'll be able to advise and complement on everything we've mentioned with you, and work together just to make it your network a lot stronger and make sure that nothing like this does happen going forward. And it's always worth getting an additional opinion, even if it's not something you completely follow through with, just to get a bit more knowledge on the topic, and how you can go about dealing with it better in the future. But I think from a personal part, that's as much as I've got to cover with it. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jake, or is that?
Just in more of a wider sense, really, you touched on about how you should specialize your IT partner. You should.
Yeah.
AgosIT, obviously, where we both work for, we're a specialist company, and we specialize in the healthcare industry. We understand that the pressures and the challenges, the regulations, the laws, the legislations are chalk and cheese compared to everything else. A generic MSP
Sure.
won't understand those. You will spend a lot of time explaining to them, well, why can't I do this? I don't understand. There will be a lot of friction.
Mm-hmm.
We are healthcare professionals. We have been in the healthcare industry for decades within the company. We understand that. We can work with you. We understand those legislations. And exactly like you said, you'd have a specialist for any medical visit. Why wouldn't you if you're IT? Why should it be different? And we don't believe it should. We are that specialist.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree. Well, I think, guys, that's pretty much a wrap. We hope you found this useful and that we covered all the questions you may have with regards to phishing. Please do feel free to drop us an email, give us a call, or just let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like us to cover with regards to phishing even more, or if there's another topic you'd like us to go through that may be useful for your company or just yourself personally. And we'll try and pop that in the next podcast for you. But yeah, I think that's it. So it's a bye from Jake.
Goodbye. And it's a bye from John.
Goodbye.